kind of a cool kind of a groove. So we're thinking about one, and then we're thinking about this quarter note pulse. Where's the pulse of that tune, right? Now, there's some ways that we can exercise that feeling, that way to subdivide the music and think about that quarter note pulse. For me, that's super, super important. I'm constantly reanalyzing it when I'm playing live. I have a sort of a mental image of a metronome in my head. And part of that comes from what I learned from a very important drum teacher, Walter Saab. When I was on the road, after about 2 or 3 years, this is about 1995, I was about 23 years old, 24 years old. We'd been out touring the country. We were doing pretty good. We were at least able to tour. We weren't making any money. But there's no money in rock and roll. Sorry to tell you the truth, but that's just the way it is. If you can get over that, it's going to be a blast. You're going to have a great time with rock and roll. So we're on the road for 2 or 3 years, and we're playing a lot, and I'm starting to feel good about the drums. And I come to the realization, I'm supposed to do this for a living. This is my calling. So I really didn't want to take that for granted, and I wanted to pursue the drums in the best way that I could. So I went down to the music store, and I talked to my buddy Coleman, who worked at the drum shop. And Coleman had been selling me drums since I was 16 years old. And I said, Coleman, I need to take some drum lessons, who do I go to? He says, well, there's 2 guys. There's one guy, and I think his name was Steve. He says, he's a very nice guy, and you'll go spend time with him, and he'll teach you a little bit about the drums. He's very pleasant. He'll say some funny things. You'll go over there once a week. He'll show you the books, and you're going to learn something about the drums. If you really want to learn about the drums, you got to go see Walter Saab. Walter Saab had been playing professionally since 1946. So this is a big band guy. This is an old school big band swing drummer. And he always had a cigar in his mouth and a cold cup of coffee and a bad attitude. And he was a really tough character. But it was really just a show. I'm sure we've all met guys like that. I think in a lot of ways his disposition was a tool that he used to cut a lot of the crap that comes towards him. Because if you were scared of him, if you were intimidated by the way he spoke to you or the way that he made you study, then he didn't want anything to do with you. He was a really tough teacher, but a really great guy to be around, and I learned a tremendous amount from him. One of the most important things is this idea of the quarter note. When I first went and saw Walt, he said, play time. And for him, that meant started over here on the hi-hat. The hi-hat is the heartbeat of the entire kit. I do not play double bass. I'm terrible at double bass. I never was good at it. When I saw Walt and he showed me the importance of the hi-hat, I felt vindicated. Now, that's not to say that if there's guys out there who can play double bass, more power to you. I can't do it. It's not in my vocabulary. The hi-hat for me is the heartbeat of the entire kit. So he would say play time, and what that meant was we would drop the heel on 1, close the toe on 2, drop the heel on 3, close the toe on 4. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the important thing to remember is that sound of my heel dropping is just as important as the closing of the hi-hats. If you go see some old jazz guys sometimes, they'll play time just like that. And you hear the stage kind of shake a little bit. It's an awesome feeling. See those guys lock it. So that's where the time starts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's get the kick drum involved. The kick drum plays straight quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And we get these things to lock up. When the heel drops on 1, that kick drum's happening. When when the toe drops on 2, that kick drum's happening. It's not any of this stuff. It's not that. It's this. Real clean. Together. That's that quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last thing we do is get the rise cymbal involved. And that's going to play straight quarters as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this exercise unto itself, you can spend a lot of time with, and you'll find that if you do this just a little bit every day, you'll start to see that quarter note in your head. You'll start to get that feeling. Now, the important thing is you can do this with music, and it doesn't have to be old-fashioned jazz music. It can be rock and roll. It can be Led Zeppelin, like we were listening to on the way over here. It could be AC/DC. Like let's think about Back in Black, right? That riff. Now, this isn't what you play when you're playing that song. This is what you do when you're trying to think about where that quarter note is, right? Right? And you can do this with any kind of a song, anything that comes on the radio. I do that all the time. Whatever kind of thing, if I'm in the car going somewhere, I'll put on the radio, and whatever happens, whatever kind of music comes on, I do that. I think to myself, all right, where's that quarter note? And if you guys will make a habit of doing that, trying to find that quarter note, you'll find that you have a much better time subdividing that quarter note and getting in between, which is where we're going next, because that's where stuff really gets exciting. But you can't do that unless you really know where the quarter note is, right? You can't start saying stuff if you don't really know what you're talking about. So that would be the first thing I'd do with Walt. Play time. Right? Then he would have me add just 2 notes on the ride cymbal. And here's where stuff starts to get a little bit interesting. I'm going to put 2 notes into that pattern that we were playing there. I'm going to put a note right before 3. So it's going to go 2 and 3. And I'm going to put a note right before 1. So it's going to go 4 and 1. So that's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4 and 1. 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3. All we're doing is putting 1 extra note right dead in the middle of 2 and 3, and right dead in the middle of 4 and 1, right? 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. Now watch what happens. All we're going to do is take that extra note that I put in there, and we're going to just smash it. We're going to push it a little bit towards 3, and we're going to push that other one a little bit towards 1. And stuff's going to start to swing, right? You guys know about this concept of swing, right? All we're going to do is push that note back a little bit. We're going to mash it a little bit back. And you're going to see that stuff is going to start to swing a little bit. 1, we'll play it straight, and then we'll start to swing it. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Now time doesn't change. These guys are still going at the very same rate. Nothing happens there. All we're doing is manipulating what's going on in between the quarter note. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Shout, can we do it straight? 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 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 1. And that's where jazz comes from. That's it right there. Now, the amount of which you swing is really up to you, and it's about what's happening with the rest of your band. Just because you swing something very hard does not mean it's funky. You've got to be cognizant of what everybody else is doing. If you're not listening to what everybody else is doing, then you're not really contributing to the music